Ferrari Dino, controversial car. I've always loved them. There was two Dinos. Actually, my colleague Jason Camisa did a fantastic video on the Haggerty YouTube channel where he made the case that the Dino sub-brand that Ferrari introduced in 1969 was really an honoring of the car because that obviously was a nickname of his son who died at an early age. So Enzo put the name on this car. The first one was this beautiful Pininfarina design 246 that shared a V6 engine with the Fiat Coupe. Gorgeous car. Ferrari thought it wasn't selling well because they needed a little more space, so they had to make a bigger car, so therefore they needed a bigger engine, so that's where the V8 Ferrari came from. First time they did this, but they hired Bertone to design the next Dino. Marcel Gandini got the assignment. He created this very wedge-like shape that was very controversial. I always happen to love them. I think they're Italian Lotus Esprits. First looked at one in 2012. I was kind of underwhelmed, but I've always been sort of looking at them, and I've always wanted one. And it was about 5-6 years ago. Camise actually owns one. And I was at his house. He's like, these things are great to drive. And I went out and I drove it. Brilliant. Just fantastic. Great steering feel. You sit right up on the front axle. You got enough room. Beautiful. So I started looking a little bit more. And so there was just this weird little community of people that were also looking for them. And they were all operating off of tips. Like these cars weren't for sale like on any site that you would know of. It was all word of mouth. And this guy calls me. He says, hey, I know this car in LA you should look at. So immediately I'm like, well, why don't you want it? He's like, well, I don't know. I just don't think it's not the car for me. I was like, okay. I called the guy. It's a really nice guy. He's owned it for 20 years. Actually, it was a European car, which is even better in my view because when they federalized the car, they had to do these weird things to the bumpers that made them look a little clumsy, but the Europeans are more pure design. And in 1975 is the early one, which was the car was, so they're lighter, and they got a little hotter cams. So this is checking all the boxes. Long-term owner. It's been in his garage for 20 years in Long Beach. So 4 years ago, January 2021, Aaron Robinson and I go pay this guy a visit. And there's the car in his little 2-car garage in Long Beach, California. It looks like a car that's been sitting for a while. And I've taken cars like this and restored them in about a year through people I know back in Michigan. And it always cost me more than they're worth, but I'm in this for fun. As my boss says, I'm a buy high, sell low kind of guy. But just own it. This is fun. I really dislike when everybody talks about how much money they make buying and selling cars. It's a hobby. Do golfers talk about money they make? No. And one of the reasons I do these car projects is I love the excuse to get to meet and talk to experts because I do some of the work myself, but there's a lot of things I know I can't do, so I sub it out. So I see this Dino, like great, 25 grand, I am in. Shows up at my house. It hasn't been run forever. The owner smelled some gas and he parked it and that was it. I started working on it. I knew it was going to need a paint job, going to need a few bit of rust repair and a new interior, but the rest, seems pretty good. There was a local guy that had done work for me and a painter, and I liked them both, and that was my plan, was to use them again. First thing I did is I take the carbs off, rebuilding them. It's not really rebuilding, just replace the rubber stuff, clean it out, get the car running. I'm driving around the neighborhood. My son's helped me out with this, so it's another reason I do it. It gives us something to do. I always say that the calamities are what creates the memories, and we have this great one where my son and I pull out the driveway, we drive down the street, and it dies. The fuel pump goes out. So who knows, didn't know how old the fuel pump was. And we're sitting on the side of the road, and we're like in a vulnerable area, and we're trying to push it, and we're having trouble pushing it, and sure enough, this guy comes riding on his bike. He's a pizza delivery guy. And so I flag him down, and I got this picture of all three of us, pizza delivery guy pushing the car off. Kind of stuff, fun stuff like that. A friend of mine talks me into having the engine rebuilt. He's like, you're doing so much anyway, you might as well rebuild the motor. So I take the motor out, and as a roller, I deliver it to my local guy. We're going to call him Sam. That's not his name, and he's going to do sort of the general contracting part of the restoration. He's an interior guy, but he also knows the painter. And he asked for $5 grand up front. Now, if I hadn't worked with him before, I would have said, forget it. So I give him the $5 grand. And months go by. The painter's calling me going, where's the car? I got time. And I was supposed to have the car. Where's the car? I'm like, I don't know. So I call Sam. What's the story? Where's the car? We're working on it, this and that. Sam was getting up in age. And I started to notice there was more cars around his shop that were not finished. And months go by. Now we're like 6 months in. Nothing's really been done to the car. Now, mind you, I had not brought the car to him until he said he was ready for it. So I had not forced it on him. I just asked him, hey, how's it going? I want to come by and look at it. I get this other text. He's like, all right, come get your car. I'm sick of dealing with you guys. And I'm like, what? And I scrolled back through my texts, and I'd seen I've been totally nice. So I said, well, just tell me what happened. I'll come get the car, but tell me where this went sideways. I thought we were all good. And a couple days go by, and he cools off, and he's like, yeah, I was just having a bad day. Okay, fine. I said, well, okay, I want a record of what the money was spent on. What did you guys do? Because they'd basically taken the interior apart, but I had already done a lot of that stuff. I had taken the carpets out, my stuff, things like that. I wanted to know where the $5,000 went. And he had it. He had it all itemized, and it was time for another $5,000. And I said, well, actually, I'm not comfortable doing that anymore. And I said, you and I have worked together. You know where I am. I've always paid you. And I said, I just feel better paying you after the work's done. You can invoice me weekly, whatever you want. And this way, I thought there'd be more of an incentive to get the car done at the same time. Here's again, no, F you. I'm not supplementing this stuff. Come get your car. Fine. I go get the car and hopefully get all the pieces because he's got the stuff out. I think I got everything. I bring the car back. Now I take it to the painter who I know, and he's starting to work on it. And I take the engine to a shop in Milwaukee that had been recommended to me, an independent Ferrari shop. And so things are kind of going along great. I knew the painter, and he'd call up. He'd say, oh, you kind of want to see this? I'm patching in the trunk. What are we going to do about the insulation? I'm watching what he's doing. I had him do things like I wanted to lower the seat mounts because I'm tall, and I wanted a little more room. And he does stuff like that. I get the engine back. He says, look, I don't want you putting the engine after I've painted it. He's like, I got all the paint off. I've done all the body work. It's in primer. Take the car, put the engine in, and then bring it back, and I'll paint it. And I said, okay, great. So it's still got no interior. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I get the car back. I put the engine in. I'm driving it around, and it's smoking a lot. I'm like, what's up with this? I call the guy who built the engine. He says, yeah, sometimes the rings need to seat, and once they start sealing, it'll start smoking. Well, of course, it's like January. I'm not going to drive this thing around in January. It's brand new body work. So I take it to a chassis dyno, and we decided it needed like about a half hour different running. I mean, and it smokes up this place for a half hour. Nothing changes. And of course, I'm a DIY. I'm like, what did I do? What did I mess up? And, we're over the phone trying to figure out what's the vent like, what's this, where's this, is it this, blah, blah, blah. And finally I buy one of those really cheap borescopes, and I send this thing down the spark plug hole, and there's oil on the top of the piston. And the engine builder, to his credit, says, oh boy. He's like, can you bring it back? So I take the engine back out, take the engine back to Milwaukee. And to his credit, man, he's a single one-man shop. He jumps right on it. And he's super upset about this. He's been in business for 30 years. He's highly recommended. And he is as honest as the day is long. I mean, I just trust him explicitly. And he calls me up. He's like, the piston rings are bad. So he bought these piston rings from the same suppliers and buying for decades. And for whatever reason, they're the weird shape and they didn't seal. I shone a light from the bottom and I could see the gap. That's where the oil's coming from, the bottom. So he's going to rebuild the engine. And while he's doing that, phone rings, and it's this woman who I know as the wife of the painter. She says, he died. I'm like, oh. And, I really enjoyed getting to know him, and so I was really sad about that. She's like, probably half of the body parts were still in the shop. She says, can you come get his stuff? I'm like, where is it? She's like, I don't know. Some of it's home, some of it's at his shop. I was like, oh boy. So now I got to go search through her house in her shop. And I know I got big stuff, the hood, the whatever. Hopefully I got all the little stuff, the badges, things like that. But you don't really know. Second time in this car that I've had to go get it in pieces from a shop. I go get that, and then while I'm trying to find another painter, and where I live, like, painters to do this kind of work are hard to find. And of course I know people, so I'd call around and get recommendations. And now I'm about like 18 months into the project, and let's go. I don't want this thing sitting here for 10 years. And the painters I would call would get recommended. They were like, yeah, I'm probably about 2 years out. What? 2 years before they even start. And that means 3 years before the car's done. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I get a call from a friend of mine. He's like, there's this guy I know, kind of retired. He paints stuff he likes, but maybe does 3 cars a year. Why don't you talk to him? So I call him up. He's like, got a cell phone. He's like, you know what? It turns out I'm in the area. Can I come by and see it? So he comes by the house. He looks at the car and he's like, I've never done one of these. Sounds great. I said, listen, this thing's in body shop jail. I am going to lose my mind. I will lose my mind. I can't handle it. This is what I've been through already. He's like, oh, no problem. I said, okay. So we start figuring 3 months, we're going to deliver the car. He's going to paint it. Meanwhile, found another independent guy who does interiors. This guy's a local guy. He had made his business for 20 years customizing Viper interiors. But of course, the Viper went out of production. Figures he wants to do something else. He has this great name. What is his name? Spamento, super Italian name. He speaks with his hands, very gregarious guy. He's always wanted to work on the Ferraris. He's like, I want to do the interior. I said, okay, great. Take the car up there, all the interior parts. We take out the headliner, whatever's left, and he's got the door cards, he's got the seats, he's got the visors, he's got the carpet, he's got the center console, he's got everything. And so he starts working on it. Now I've got the engine back, it's running okay, got it back in the car. This guy's got all the interior. He's starting to work on making the seat covers. All the foam is all trashed. He was really excited to develop this process where he can remold the foam around the frame, especially on the side bolsters. That's all going great. I'm about to deliver the car to the painter, and he has a farm in the middle of Michigan, and this is where he does his painting. He does a lot of it for a drag racing team. He's a big enthusiast. And I'm about to take the car off, and he calls me up. He's like, hey, I got a problem. I was like, of course. What's the problem? He's like, the paint booth burned down yesterday. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No, I says, what do you want to do? He's like, it's okay. He's like, bring the car up. He's like, I got this whole other barn. I'm going to turn it into the paint booth. I'll get your car done. So I was like, okay. And so I bring the car up to him. A month later goes by. I get another call from another woman, and she's crying. She says, hey, I got some bad news. Tony passed away. This is the interior guy. I was like, oh, man, what happened? And, they think he had a heart attack or something like that. And she's like, you gotta come up and get your stuff. I was like, okay. We made arrangements to go get the stuff. And, because I wanted to jump on it, get the stuff as soon as I could. And a few days later, she says, well, we can't get in there. She's like, the landlord shut the doors and locked us out. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Why do you lock you out? Well, he thinks he needs some rent from the estate. I was like, oh boy. That drags out for 6 weeks. Finally get in there, and you can imagine industrial park. He's got stuff everywhere. And I knew I had already paid for some leather and things like that I think were mine. He's got a mezzanine where he'd stored stuff in pieces. And now luckily I had taken photos of everything. And, we're trying to grab everything we can. And in the middle of it, we could not locate all this trim that goes around the headliner and the visors. But, I'm walking through with the family, and it had been hours, and we can't find him. At some point, I got to go, I guess it's gone. So bring all that stuff home. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. Now it's it's been at the painter for 6 months, and I'm starting to get nervous of that. So I call him up. Hey, man, what's going on? Yeah. I'm going to start painting in a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, great. Do you need anything? No, we're good. A couple months more go by. We're getting to be about a year. So the funny thing is about this car was I never planned to write about it or cover or say anything. It's just something I like to do because, at Hagerty we have a magazine that goes almost to 1 million people. And we mainly focus on American muscle cars, not necessarily Ferraris, even though it's the cheapest Ferrari you can buy at 25 grand. But I happened to write one month. I said, hey, I've got this project. Would you guys be interested in hearing about it? And we got more letters for that inquiry than we've ever gotten. So it was this resounding, yeah, we want to hear about it. Little did they know the story they were about to get. So I had been doing regular updates along the things about some of the pitfalls and the fun and all that stuff. So now, I pull out my trump card with the painter. Hey, man, I got to write something about this. What am I going to write? Is my car painted? My car's been sitting there for a year. No, I'm on it. He finally gets on it, and it's now a day-by-day thing. I'm painting it tomorrow. I call him the next day. Did you paint the car? No. Something happened. I had to do this. I kind of think the car is cursed, right? So what could happen? What other calamity could happen that could stop this thing from happening? I mean, I'm so like basically pregnant with this guy to paint the car. He's got another coat of primer on it. He's, whatever. And another 2 months go by, and he does paint the car. I think I had set a deadline. I'm coming to get it this date. That came and passed as I'm coming this day, hook or by crook. And he wasn't finished. But, being the kind of stubborn guy I am, I went and got it anyway. And it's a mess. I mean, it's such a mess. Like, I remember telling him, like, look, the engine's in, it runs. Just please, please, please figure out a way to cover this engine. And then I had also done all the work to get the windows to go up and down, which is really, really hard because it's this, long story short, I said, for whatever you do, just don't get all the junk in there, Yeah. It is just stuff everywhere. And I mean, the valve covers, which had been powder coated, are just, there's almost filled up the spark plug holes with the gunk that he'd used to sand the car down. I mean, the paint looks pretty good. I got to give him credit. And, you have a decision. What do you do at that point? At this point, I'm like, screw it. I took it home. I spent the next 2 months, cleaning and all that stuff. And luckily, I found another shop that I knew, Monk's Motors down by us, who'd started doing interior work. And this guy's been in business a long time. He says, look, I think we can finish your interior. So I gave the car to him after I got it back and I got it running. And this was like the last thing. I was like so grateful because they did the interior when they said they would do interior. It looked great and everything like that. So it was a good, kind of final ending to the whole story. But the whole thing, the car, I got it finished earlier this year in March and I started driving it. It's not perfect. This is the funny thing is when you do these things, it takes months and months and months. So I'm still sort of debugging it. But I did like a final tally. I think it sat in shops not being worked on for 2.5 years out of 4 years. And I think I spent about 25 grand for work that was never completed. Either innocently somebody passed away or the work that was promised was never done. So I've done like 4 of these kind of projects and 3 have gone really well. And this one has just been a total train wreck. Luckily, I do love the car and I love driving it. But all those stories they say about buying a finished car are true.
I'm at the Lars Anderson Auto Museum, home of America's oldest car collection, and they are holding a sweepstakes where one of you is going to win this Porsche 992. You can enter at the link in the description below and you will have an amazing car, but much more importantly, you'll be helping keep America's car culture alive. The Lars Anderson Auto Museum is the hub of New England car culture, and that is why every week here on the grounds, there's something amazing happening. So if you're in the Boston area, come say hey, and either way, enter to win this thing because it's awesome.